Hello, I am Bartek and I'd like to welcome you to my submission video for the competition on building your own heat recovery system from O3 Ozone, Mr. Piotr Paruszewski's company.
We are in front of my house. It's a house with a ground floor and an upper floor. It's one half of a semi-detached house where we performed these installations.
Those of you who follow this competition and its previous editions might recognize me from a video from the previous edition where we were independently installing the O3 ozone system at my brother-in-law's house in the other half of a semi-detached house. At the very end of that video, we collectively mentioned that if we were to get the opportunity to do an installation like that once more, we would most likely take on the challenge. Well, and it actually happened. So let's get started. To begin with, the exhaust vent and the intake vent are situated on the north wall of the building. The exhaust vent is situated right here by the garage. The air intake unit is situated right by the main entrance door, positioned a bit further away from the garage area to ensure it draws in the absolute minimum amount of exhaust fumes from the vehicle.
Let us go inside.
We are currently in the garage.
The air intake and exhaust are constructed using spiral ducts with a diameter of 200 millimeters.
They are insulated with 5 centimeter thick wool. We wanted to provide greater insulation of 10 centimeters, but it would have been problematic to fit it into the shaft leading to the next floor and with drilling holes through the walls. All the turns we tried to execute them low on our knees by doing 45 plus 45 degrees. If we needed to turn 90 degrees, we did this to avoid those sharp 90-degree turns in a single movement. The central unit itself is located right here, all the way at the back of the garage. Its exact positioning is extremely crucial, primarily because the inlets for the exhaust, the intake and the supply and exhaust vents had to be positioned in such a way to ensure that the pipes would cross as little as possible and to allow the installation to be routed as simply as possible.
Inside this unit, we have an A300 central ventilation unit equipped with an automatic bypass and an enthalpy heat exchanger. The exhaust and supply air ducts each have 1 meter flexible sections, which effectively serve as a silencer here, because we don't have a dedicated sound attenuator as a separate component.
These flex sections go into the T-connectors. The T-connectors are not insulated with wool, but with centimeter thick rubber, which will always add to the insulation. The garage is a heated room. There's a separate underfloor heating circuit here, so the temperature will be quite high all year. The distribution boxes themselves are located in a small room at the back of the garage. This room will be locked. It also has its own underfloor heating circuit, so the temperature here will be significantly higher than even in the garage.
Well, this decision was made primarily because we didn't want to isolate these units if there was any possibility. We managed to accomplish this by simply placing them inside this very room. And the wall penetrations, here it's a flexible duct section, but the wall penetration itself, which is about 25 centimeters thick, is also made of spiral duct so that it doesn't need to be serviced every few years. But this element will remain, let's say, permanently, or at least for many, many years.
Just for a moment here, regarding the manifolds, we actually had more yellow pipes, which theoretically were intended only for supply air diffusers, but since we had a surplus of them, we simply ran all of them, and consequently we used fewer purple ones. As for the passage within the utility shaft, right after the T-fittings, we also have these spiral ducts so that they won't need to be replaced every few years. They are surrounded by an additional layer of insulation, but I will tell you more about that once we go up to the next floor. Perhaps one final thing. Here, at the main central unit, we haven't installed the heater yet. We'll want to get this done before the heating season starts, which I suspect will be by autumn at the very latest. It's going to be either a glycol heater, because there is one available circuit from the underfloor heating. The underfloor heating, whose distribution box is located right here in the corner of the garage. It's currently not visible, as it's blocked by various bits of junk.
Well, we'll either utilize this specific method, but if it doesn't prove to be effective, then we'll simply connect an electrical heating unit.
Let's move on now to the main part of the house, in the back vestibule.
On the ceiling, you can see that the pipes are routed with gentle curves. All turns are made to avoid any sharp bends as much as possible. On the pipes are attached with cable ties to the ceiling, and of course an expansion plug and a cable tie to such a bracket. The pipes adhere to the ceiling as closely as possible.
Here we can clearly see 3 exhaust vents that are leading to the main hallway and the laundry room.
NMSs are positioned so they are at least 80 centimeters from windows. In most cases, it's even a meter from the window.
They are arranged to ensure optimal air distribution, either rising from or blowing into the entire room. Here are 2 inlets. You can see a passage through the wall under the ceiling. All these passages will also be foamed before the ceilings to isolate the rooms from each other.
Let's go up to the top.
We're on the upper floor.
Let's go right away to the walk-in closet, where it comes out of the shaft from the garage.
Here, behind this little wall, we actually have something quite interesting hidden.
We have both an air supply duct and an air exhaust duct. From those T-junctions I previously mentioned, spiro pipes extend into the garage.
Spiro pipes are additionally insulated
with insulation in the form of, this is a type of insulating sleeve which we had intended to use on all spiro duct sections, even in the garage. However, we ultimately decided against it because the concept simply didn't work out.
However, since we had a bit of material remaining, we decided to use it to further insulate these spiro pipes right here, even though it wasn't entirely necessary to do so because it's already quite warm in this area. This room is both heated, and we will additionally separate this shaft from the garage. We'll fill it completely with mineral wool, so it will be very warm in here, but we did it anyway. Right here, just before the very final section, which is already entering the main distribution boxes, which are positioned up there at the top, we have a piece of flex here, and this area is already prepared for inspection windows because this flex will also serve as an additional form of sound insulation. Here we'll have inspection windows, so we can replace this flex every few years. Here, of course, there's another flex, and here one more pipe. This is the garage's gravity ventilation. It's not part of the heat recovery system, but it's also located in this shaft. As for the boxes, they are placed at different heights so that the pipes can cross freely. I haven't mentioned it yet, but these are pipes with a 95 diameter max vent. When it comes to the installation of the thermostats on the upper floor, we've got them mounted right here on some leftover Euro pallet pieces, secured to the wooden beams that are positioned up above. And these beams will form the base for the attic floor construction. They're fastened with torque screws, and it's all looking very good.
We were able to successfully complete all of this by making use of those very materials right here, which we had not previously put to any use.
Among other interesting facts, there's also the project which served as the basis for our installation. We also purchased it from O3 Ozone Company. We had to modify these projects a little bit. Unfortunately, we purchased the building in a raw, enclosed state, and we didn't have control over everything. For example, in some places where there are reinforced concrete blocks, we couldn't run the wiring through, or it would have been very troublesome, so we took a roundabout route. For instance, this stretch right here from the walk-in closet to the bathroom, which is situated over there. We couldn't take a more direct path through the hallway. We had to come through the stairwell here because in this particular spot we managed to fit beneath the beam. When it came to cutting the ducts, we always used the reciprocating saw for the spiro pipes. We made sure to avoid using an angle grinder because an angle grinder can cause corrosion. It generates far too much heat, and we also avoided using sheet metal shears because it meant that a large part of the pipe had to be thrown away because it bent easily. Unfortunately, shears are a clumsy tool. We tried to keep all the max vent pipe sections more or less the same length. Of course, this was done wherever it was feasible. The shortest section measures slightly over 3 meters. This was the absolute minimum required to effectively manage the flow and to ensure that the noise level wouldn't be excessively high.
regarding the max vent ducts on the upper floor and the way they are run through the ceiling slab.
When it comes to the temperature for these wires, so they don't get too cold, especially during the heating season. The roof has been insulated with a layer of foam, approximately 30 centimeters thick. Because of this, the temperature in the attic space would never fall below freezing, and it shouldn't even drop significantly below 10 degrees Celsius. Furthermore, the additional information I have is that along with my brother-in-law from the other half of the property,
we made sure that the entire membrane is completely sealed off by this foam coating. So we chipped away some of the hollow blocks from this very side, all the way up to the joint at the top, and then to the other side, so that the foam could properly reach and cover the entire surface. Thanks to this, 100% of the roof is now fully sealed.
Right in the ceiling structure between the ceiling below and the attic floor above. Here you can clearly see the OSB board laid out that will form the actual floor. We have approximately 50 centimeters of available space, which we will probably fill with just under 50 centimeters, but a minimum of 35 to 40 centimeters of wool or cellulose to further insulate these conduits here. To provide a summary of the entire film, I would like to point out that
it's a very pleasant process, relatively easy. It doesn't require manual skills as much as it demands an ongoing planning.
the placement of the unit, the routing of the cables, and the specific method of installation. All of these crucial aspects practically boil down to the initial conceptual design. The actual execution itself, in comparison, is not nearly as complicated.
Would I though? If I were given the opportunity, would I undertake this installation for a third time? I certainly believe I would. I also want to make a point here that even though throughout this film I switch between speaking in the first person and in the plural.
Of course, I didn't do this 100% by myself, because this time we were a team of 4 people. That means with my wife, my brother-in-law, and his wife. It truly is a superb experience, and I can fully attest to that fact by having completed a second installation of this exact type. All materials are available on the internet, especially on Mr. Piotr's channel. There's a significant amount that can be learned. There are instructions available for absolutely everything. All it takes is a little bit of willingness and, well, some careful initial planning. Thank you for your attention.